Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Romy Van Der Merwe, a certified life coach, fluent in 3 languages, specializes as an imposter syndrome coach for ambitious professionals. Welcome to the show, Romy.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be chatting with you.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Romy. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just
Thank
in
you.
India, but not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about conquering imposter syndrome. So before we come to the imposter syndrome, let's talk about your success, Romy, about your journey of success to this point. Help us a bit more about you, about your background, so that the audience understands better, more who they are actually listening to.
Okay, so thank you for that introduction. Yes, my name is Romy. And who am I now? I am a mom of 2 beautiful boys. I am a wife, and I am an imposter syndrome coach. And I always knew that I wanted to do something to help people. I just didn't know what it was. And when I was doing my studying, there was no such thing as life coaching. So the options really at that stage were psychology or psychiatry. Life coaching just wasn't a thing back then. So at that stage, I settled on political science. And then years later, my sister's brother's sister, yeah, I think I got that right. She's a certified life coach, and her company actually qualifies life coaches. So through her, I did my life coaching certification. And then I had the certification. And now what? So now my imposter monster, like I like to call it, was raising its head. I had the certification. I had all this life experience. I had been a very successful commercial real estate agent up until that point. But what do I do next? So my reaction was then to sign up for more courses, to join up more events, to do more programs, and really just to learn and absorb and to expand my knowledge as much as possible. And it just ended up getting really expensive, and I just wasn't doing anything with it. So then I sat down one day and I just thought that surely I can't be the only one that feels like this. It feels this incredible overwhelm at doing something, doing the next step in my career, doing something different. And so I really went on my own imposter syndrome discovery journey, and realized that it had actually been part of me for so really long. And then this one day I read this one line I can't honestly remember. And it said that leaders lead from the front. Now, I thought this was such a silly saying. Like, of course, leaders lead from the front. Of course, otherwise they'd be followers, right? So this stupid saying, it really sat with me and it irked me. And then suddenly, somewhere along the line, one day it just dawned on me that you do not need to be a million steps ahead to be able to turn around and help people. In fact, you don't want to be so far ahead because that's actually probably intimidating. So what you need is to really be ahead, to have learned the lessons, to have absorbed what you can, to be able to just then turn around and to help people. So I realized at that point that I had made all this investment in terms of time and money and effort and my own imposter syndrome journey, that it was really my time to turn back and to help people. And that's how I started working with people one-on-one and getting them confident enough to take the next step in their careers. And that's how I
Wonderful.
ended up being an imposter syndrome coach.
Wonderful. Now, as an imposter syndrome coach, what
Mm-hmm.
is this imposter syndrome about? Is it about that you, in spite of all the talent, all the achievement, you still feel like an imposter? Is it that, or is it beyond that we need to understand about this concept?
That's a great question. So I have a slightly different take on that. If you Google imposter syndrome, you'll get a plethora of answers on that. And the first thing that comes up is the 4 Ps. So what's up? It's procrastination, perfectionism, people pleasing. And so yes, what you're saying, it all forms part of it, but it's too broad. It's all of that is too broad, and it can be very situational. So for me to know if you really have imposter syndrome, you have to dig into it a little bit deeper to really understand, or to kind of like do a bit of an inventory of what it is that you're feeling. Because we all feel stressed at times, we all feel overwhelmed at times, we all feel like imposter sometimes. But is this feeling that you're having a constant feeling? Is it a debilitating feeling? Are you having it really often? What is the severity of it? So the best example that I can give here is, do you have the Monday blues, or is it the sinking feeling that you have in the pit of your stomach that starts already as early as the weekend? Another good example is it's situational. So are you really not prepared for something that you were meant to be prepared for? Or are you actually over prepared, agonizing about every detail, and you're just not confident? And so it's really, it's a combination of all of these things, and the severity and how often you are thinking and feeling these things. That is imposter syndrome.
Right, right. So you talked about Monday blues.
Mhm.
Monday blues about leaders, but then a very common employee, even a peon or janitor, even they will have a Monday blues. So
Absolutely.
how does it differ from a leader's Monday blue sort of a thing? And should we call them, they are also suffering from imposter syndrome? No. But why do we call that, okay, it's the leader who is suffering from this particular thing? There must be more to it, or more deeper into it. I want to understand that part.
Okay, absolutely. So you are very right, and that's a great question. So what I was saying there is, you wake up in the on Mondays and you're like, I don't feel like going to work. That's normal. Don't have imposter syndrome. That's just like you had a wonderful weekend, or you're just not ready for the week. But if you start on the weekends already, so say Sunday, maybe even Saturday, you start thinking about work, about all the things that you have to do, and have you done anything wrong, and have you prepared properly enough, and being really nervous about having to see some people or having to go into meetings, and have you prepared properly for those meetings, and you think so much about it that it's taking you away from your home life, from your family life, and it's really, it's detracting from your day-to-day life. That's when it starts to become an issue, not just the, oh, I don't feel like going to work today. So it's this much regular, more often, deeper feeling that you have.
Right. So it means you are, the work consumes you a lot, and a lot of you, and then you get worried about things around work and not beyond that. So who are these people? Means, is it because they have grown through a lot of different challenges, a lot of achievements they have made in their lives, and they have got trained through everything? So why is it that it happens to them after they have achieved it, and why only this particular achievement and not the earlier achievements that has been the stepping stones for them?
So it just to touch on, it does disproportionately affect women, people of color, underrepresented groups, um, but it does also affect high achievers somewhat more, disproportionately more. Not to say that it doesn't affect everybody, but it does affect them more. And the big thing is that they can't, me very much being part of that for a very, very long time, it is very difficult to claim a success. So if you've done really well at something, you chalk it off, or you write it off to being, oh, I was just at the right place at the right time, or I was just lucky, or oof, I caught a lucky break, or whatever it is. It's not being able to accept the fact that, actually, you know what, I did this. I put in the effort. I deserve this, and I did well. It's writing that off. It's so that's part of the imposter syndrome. It's also when you have all these accomplishments and you can see those, you still have this nagging feeling that you're not good enough, and that next time around you're going to make a mistake, and then you'll be exposed as being a fraud. So the more you achieve, the more you feel that you have to hold yourself to that standard, the more you feel that you have to achieve more. So it escalates as you achieve more.
Okay, so is it about being lonely at the top, or is it about that they actually lack something? Is it about that all throughout maybe they could not develop that sort of a mindset? Should we look at it at that? Because the biggest hallmark of a leader is that right sort of a mindset, and that resilience, and that sort of,
Mm-hmm.
which can make others believe in them. How does it work? Where is the problem here? uh, Questions will come to anyone. Anyone will have those questions. But those people who are able to actually tackle those problems are the ones who
Mhm.
will emerge as victorious. Even during Second World War, Stalin also went into a shell of his own for not only one day but for several days, until one his team connected with him, and then he asked those questions, which his team said that yes, you it is very much possible to achieve and to fight the Germans. I want to
Mhm.
understand the mindset of a leader. How does it work? Means I still don't fully get it. Or asking questions to oneself is a part of our growing process. Why does it become an imposter sort of a thing? Is it a lack of something, or is it okay? How do they then deal with this? I want to understand that part for the audience.
So it certainly is a lack of self belief. And so, building on to what I said earlier on, that there's this constant feeling of having to prove yourself. So, when you've done something, you need to do better next. It's like this one upmanship of yourself to having to constantly do better, do better, do better. And when you do end up making a mistake, then it's this feeling of I knew I wasn't going to be able to do this, that I am not worthy of doing this, or I am not capable of doing this. And then every time a mistake happens, you kind of start spiraling down on this. So yes, to answer your question, it is a lot about working on that mental belief, resilience, working on the thought patterns that you have internally and understanding them and recognizing them and dealing with them as they come up. Because if you so yes, dealing with them as they come up, because when you can recognize what's happening, that's when you can start working on the mindset, and that's when you can start working on the resilience and to get yourself up into to a higher confidence level. So does it, you asked right at the beginning, is it a lonely place to be? I think it is a lonely place to be. So while this is not a classified medical disorder, it's still very broadly falls under like something mental related, right? And we don't like talking about those things, and you don't like sharing the fact that you're having these feelings and you're feeling inadequate. So I do believe that it is a lonely place to be because you feel there's something wrong with you. Recent stats, and stats change all the time, but I think the recent stat that I've read is up to 80% of North Americans have had some kind of feeling of imposter syndrome in some way, shape, or form. So, and it's not spoken about enough. It is not addressed enough. So it needs to be spoken about more, so people can become more aware of it. So it becomes less lonely, and you have the support systems to help you up.
Right, right, Romy. Let's look at it in a much more positive way for the leaders.
Mhm.
Nowadays, because of the cancel culture, tall
Yes.
poppy syndrome, and all this developing in our workplaces, there is a much more sort of a telescopic eye on the leadership, and
Mhm.
and that perhaps puts extra pressure on them. Is it like that, that they actually, instead of just performing their roles, they have to always be aware of the microscope that they are always under? Is it because of that? How do you look at this part of that your focus then slightly shifts, not just on the type of job that you have in hand, but also on the prying eyes of others who are waiting for you to fail inside the organization, or also perhaps outside it?
So, from a leadership perspective, I believe that things have changed. You don't, or it's not accepted as much anymore to have this dictatorship from the bottom down. You have to work in a more inclusive, more collaborative, more really on the same page kind of setup nowadays. So I do feel there is more pressure in leadership because you have to now get everyone's buy-in and everyone's input. And yes, people then do point fingers and do try and trip you up and do try and sort of point out your mistakes. But at the same time, I do believe that having this collaborative approach, if you as a leader are open to it and you can take the feedback as feedback and not as criticism, I think that as a whole will make you a better leader and a stronger leader and a more respected leader, because you're not leading by forcing or telling, you are leading by inclusion. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say here? So it's more of an inclusive leadership style now that we're seeing compared to a dictatorial previous one.
Absolutely, it does make sense here, indeed, Romy. Now, let me understand it this way. A lot of people, and there is data that say that a lot of leadership fake or put wrong things in their resume to be getting those positions in big organizations or at top places. A lot of people also believe that let's fake it till we actually make it, and they actually make it, but then you actually have not traveled the real distance, you have faked it, and that is
Mhm.
where you start feeling that heat. And when questions come in, because you are the topmost leader or the second rung or the third rung, there is a lot of examination of your of whatever you are doing, and that
Mhm.
perhaps puts a lot of pressure on you because you have not gone through, like swimming. I cannot learn swimming by sitting on the banks of any swimming pool. I cannot.
Yes.
I need to dig deep into
The
the
end.
water, but I can
Yes.
arrange a certificate of a swimmer. And
Yes.
if I need to swim, then and people are there, then I'll be afraid to jump into the water. Is it
Yes.
like that? You are an international swimmer, so is it like that with some leadership who actually put it as imposter syndromes? They're actually imposters and not real leaders.
I love that analogy. That's so fantastic. Yes, and I hear what you're saying. It's certainly, but I want to go a step back. It's not just leaders that this affects. So anybody in an organization can have these feelings of imposter syndrome and have these feelings of I need to put my mask on to get to work. And I think what's really a good example is women. You put your makeup on in the morning to present your work persona, right? You do your hair, you put your makeup on, your lipstick and everything, and this is my work persona. But you are, not that I'm saying anything is wrong with wearing makeup. I'm wearing makeup myself right now. But what I'm saying is you are stepping into something that you think you should do. You think you should act so and so. You think you should do things a certain way, and you think you should say things a certain way. And if you're constantly thinking about how you should be acting, what you should be saying, and how you should be reacting, it's very stressful because you don't actually just get to be yourself and authentically say what comes truly from you. And that's the part that is really, it's exhausting to constantly wear your mask, to have your something else on and not be yourself, is where you get the burnout, where you get the overwhelm, where you get the anxiety. But the only way that you can really speak your truth is if you're confident. So it's really starting with building up yourself and your own confidence and your intrinsic confidence. And once you have started reconnecting with that, then yes, you can start slowly but surely stripping off that mask and being yourself. And what is really so interesting, and this is clients that I've worked with, that they say once they've started stripping this mask off or just following systems and things that they believe in, they are so much more successful because they believe in it, they're passionate about it, they can just, you can do so much more if you believe in something wholeheartedly and be yourself while doing it. So that was a bit of a long answer, but that again, I'm hoping it makes sense that you have to connect with your authenticity, with your own confidence, to be able to speak your truth and confidently lead or be a confident employee as well.
Absolutely. So now let's look at the solution. What is the
Mm-hmm.
solution? What are these leaders who they come to you as a coach, as a expert in this? What is it that these leaders or whoever it is comes to you, and how do you advise them? Do you find who is at fault? Is it their mind or is it their actions which is at fault?
Interesting. I wouldn't say that anything is at fault per se. I think it all really starts with awareness. So, understanding your thoughts, understanding what triggers your thoughts, and then identifying if there's any kind of patterns. And it's a little bit weird to think about your thoughts. So, I find the easiest way to start really is when you're in a situation and a strong emotion comes up, then start exploring that. See, does this happen often? When does it happen? What triggers it? What happens then? And just be curious about it and just understand, just dig into that understanding, that awareness a little bit. And then once you've dug into that a little bit and have more of an awareness, then yes, then we can go start doing the next step, which is really just setting yourself up for success, and then going into building your confidence up again from there.
Absolutely. Now, a lot of people, their mindset is much more of a simple people. Nothing wrong, and then
Mm-hmm.
that is the good pick.
Mm-hmm.
People want to spend their good life with family life, but when they see their peer group, and a lot of people are very ambitious, and you also join the rat race, and you
Mm-hmm.
also may perhaps achieve. Is it because of that rat race, or trying to be more ambitious than you actually are as an individual, that you actually want in life, that actually puts extra pressure on you, and that also creates this? How do you, what would you advise to people like this, who are looking at, other people and wanting to jump into that pool? Does it work for them, or they should just stay clear of such activities because it's not their mindset?
That's a very interesting question. So yes, keeping up with the Joneses, right? So if your neighbors have these cars and whatever it is, and you have almost this feeling, exactly like you're saying, of like, this is what I should have to be successful. This is what society is telling me I should do, and this is basically, what everyone has and what is the measurement of success. But again, this is where slow down to speed up. So take a moment and just dig into what is it that you really want. What is it that makes you happy? What is it that fulfills you, that makes you, that gives you that spark in the morning, that you're passionate about? And what I really like to do is more than just goal setting. So goal setting is this thing that you can do, and then you set yourself your smart goal, and you have to achieve X, Y, and Z by such date. But if you do that, you're not really connecting with what it is that your heart wants. So you have to take a step back and connect to what is it that, if you cast your mind to the future, what is that thing that really motivates you and that you really deeply and truly want? And once you know that, then working it backwards from there, and then you'll find what your priorities are, and you'll find what your beliefs are around that. So it's more often than not, like you say, it's not keeping up with the Joneses, but it's understanding what you want internally versus keeping up with what you should be, quote unquote, externally.
Absolutely. Now, someone who is just starting his career or few years into the career, what would you advise them to say avoid this sort of a situation later in their life? What is the path that they should take? Path which is successful but not leading to such a thing as imposter syndrome. What is your take on this?
My biggest thing that I would say is, especially when we're starting, we make mistakes. We make a lot of mistakes. And instead of getting stuck on the mistakes that you made, what can you learn from that? So I really like power questions. And power questions are really, in a situation, you always have a choice. So let's say you made a mistake. Doesn't matter what the mistake is in work. You get to make the decision. Am I now going to remember this and be stuck in this and like, oh, next time I'm going to be all nervous about making this mistake again? Or what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this now? What is the win in this situation? And how can I not do this again in future? So just catching yourself as early on as possible to just reframe the mistakes that you make into a learning and then growing from there.
Absolutely. There's much to learn from you about all these things, Romy. And I'm sure a lot of people would like to learn more about you, from you, engage with you professionally. So, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, thank you very much, AJ. I appreciate that. The easiest way to connect with me is either on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn at Romy V Coaching. Those are probably the easiest three places to connect with me, and I'm pretty active on social media.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful.